More than 2,600 years ago, in ancient Greece, a group of people stopped explaining the world through gods and myths. They started using reason and observation instead. That was the birth of philosophy and science. Before this moment, if a storm raged or a crop failed, the answer was simple. A god was angry. Zeus threw the lightning. Demeter withheld the harvest. But in the bustling trade ports of Ionia, a new way of thinking emerged, a profound shift from mythos to logos. Mythos was the language of stories and divine whims, while logos was the language of logic, order, and universal laws. These early thinkers, known as the Pre-Socratics, were the first to ask, what is the world actually made of, and why does it change? They weren't looking for myths, they were looking for the arche, the fundamental first principle of all existence. Imagine a world where the supernatural is stripped away, leaving only the raw, beautiful mechanics of nature waiting to be decoded. They believed that through human reason, the secrets of the universe weren't just for the gods, they were for us to understand.
Our journey begins in the bustling port city of Miletus with Thales, the man traditionally hailed as the very first philosopher. Thales looked at the complex world and made a radical, seemingly simple observation. Everything is water. Now, while that might sound strange to our modern ears, think about it through his eyes. Water is absolutely essential for life. It is found in every living thing. Even more fascinating for an observer of nature, it is the only substance he could see that naturally exists as a solid, a liquid, and a gas. By claiming water was the arche, the fundamental starting point of all things, Thales did something truly revolutionary. He proposed that the immense diversity of the universe could be explained by a single underlying physical substance, rather than the unpredictable whims of gods like Poseidon. But Thales wasn't just a dreamer. He famously used his astronomical observations to predict a solar eclipse, and even used his knowledge of weather patterns to corner the market on olive presses during a bumper crop year. He proved that understanding the natural world through reason wasn't just abstract, it had practical, earth-shaking power.
Thales had a brilliant student named Anaximander who took this quest for the arche a massive step further. Anaximander spotted a logical flaw in his teacher's theory. He argued that if the primary substance was water, it couldn't possibly account for its absolute opposite, fire. After all, how could water produce the very thing that destroys it? Instead, he proposed something far more abstract and sophisticated, the apeiron, or the boundless. He envisioned an eternal, swirling source that was indefinite and limitless. This wasn't a physical element you could touch, but a reservoir from which all elements arise and to which they all eventually return, in a cycle of cosmic balance. Anaximander was a true visionary who looked at the cosmos with incredible intuition. He created one of the first maps of the world and made the stunning leap to suggest that the Earth floats freely in space, held up by nothing at all. No pillars, no giants, just equilibrium. He even theorized that humans must have evolved from fish-like creatures, showing an early intuitive grasp of the vast scales of time and biological change.
As we move along the coast to Ephesus, we encounter the mysterious Heraclitus, often called the obscure. For Heraclitus, the fundamental nature of reality wasn't a static substance like water or air, but change itself. He famously remarked that you cannot step twice into the same river because the water is always flowing, and you, the person, are always changing. He saw the world as a constant struggle of opposites, day and night, war and peace, up and down, that are actually held together in a beautiful hidden tension. He used fire as his symbol for the universe because it is constantly moving, consuming, and transforming everything it touches. Yet amidst this flux, he believed there was a logos, a universal intelligence or harmony that governs the change. Visualize a world where stability is an illusion and the only constant is the dancing flame of transformation. To Heraclitus, this logos is the cosmic proportion that ensures that while everything moves, it moves with purpose. In his eyes, the conflict we see in nature isn't a flaw, it is the very engine of existence. On the other side of the debate stood Parmenides of Elia, who offered a view that challenged our very senses. While Heraclitus saw constant change, Parmenides argued that change is a complete illusion. His logic was strict. Something cannot come from nothing, and something that is cannot not be. Therefore, being is eternal, indivisible, and unchanging. If you see a leaf turning from green to brown, Parmenides would argue your eyes are deceiving you. The true reality beneath the surface is a solid, perfect, and timeless sphere of existence. This created a massive intellectual crisis in Greek thought. It forced future thinkers to choose between the world we experience through our senses, the world of flux, and the world we understand through pure reason, the world of eternal truths. This tension between sensory experience and logic remains a cornerstone of philosophy to this day. To Parmenides, the path of truth was found only in what is logically necessary, setting the stage for a 1,000-year struggle to define the true nature of reality versus appearance.
While some looked to water or fire, Pythagoras of Samos looked to the stars and the strings of a lyre. To him, the arche wasn't a physical material at all, it was number. Pythagoras discovered that musical harmonies could be expressed in precise mathematical ratios. For instance, plucking a string and then halving its length creates an octave, a 2-to-1 ratio. He concluded that the entire universe was built on a foundation of mathematics, a music of the spheres that we can only hear through our minds. But Pythagoras wasn't just a mathematician, he was a mystic who led a secretive community. He taught the transmigration of souls, believing that the spirit is immortal and undergoes a cycle of reincarnation. Imagine a reality where every shape, every sound, and every movement is part of a grand divine equation. For Pythagoras, the universe wasn't just chaotic matter, it was a beautiful, ordered structure governed by geometry. Your soul is a traveler through this mathematical cosmos, seeking to understand the hidden patterns that connect the smallest note to the largest planet.
The debate over the nature of matter reached its ancient peak with Democritus and his theory of atomism. Democritus found a brilliant way to bridge the gap between Parmenides' permanence and Heraclitus' change. He proposed that the entire universe is composed of just two things, atoms and the void. Atomos in Greek literally means uncuttable. Imagine cutting a piece of fruit smaller and smaller until you reach a point where no blade can divide it further. These atoms are tiny, eternal, and indestructible particles that come in infinite shapes and sizes, some hooked, some smooth, some spherical. The void is the essential empty space that allows these atoms to move, swirl, and collide. When atoms hook together, they create the complex objects of our world, the trees, the mountains, and even us. When they drift apart, those objects perish. This was a stroke of genius that mirrors our modern scientific understanding. In the view of Democritus, there is no divine plan or mystical force at work. There is only the mechanical movement of particles in infinite space, creating a universe that is both staggeringly complex and fundamentally simple.
Why do these thinkers from over 2 millennia ago still matter today? Because they were the ones who dared to ask the big questions first. By moving away from mythology, they established the fundamental ground rules for how we seek knowledge. They asked, what is the universe made of? Is change real? How can we trust our senses? These pre-Socratics weren't just the first philosophers. They were our first scientists, our first cosmologists, and our first psychologists. Their quest for a single underlying truth, whether it was Thales' water, the infinite Hyperon, Pythagoras' numbers, or the invisible atoms of Democritus, inspired everything from the Enlightenment to modern quantum physics. When we look at a starry night and wonder about the mathematical laws of the cosmos, or when we reflect on the fluid nature of our own consciousness, we are continuing the conversation that began on the sun-drenched shores of ancient Greece. They taught us that the world is a riddle that can be solved, provided we have the courage to use our reason. Their legacy is the profound realization that the cosmos is not a series of divine whims,
but a logical system waiting to be understood.